This video is being sponsored by Cellars. And I was like, I like animals, and he said, not this kind. I'm excited to read this, and I'm excited to cry. Who doesn't love a mushroom, you know? I am always down to party with Jay Gatsby. The title isn't wrong. Honestly, it sounds messy, and like messy usually means it's gonna be a fun read. I know it sounds dark, okay? But it also sounds really cool. This is my new hyperfixation. This is my new identity. This is my new obsession. It is a life-affirming. My books are trying to escape. Hi friends, my name is Lexi and welcome back to my channel. Today, I will be sharing with you a massive pile of books. That's right, she went shopping. So in today's book haul, I have 30 books to share with you. I have adult books, I have contemporary fiction, high fantasy, whimsical reads, you name it, I basically got it, and I am so excited to share with you all of the titles. But before we get into today's video, I would like to thank today's sponsor, which is Cellars. Hi everyone, I am so incredibly excited to be telling you about today's sponsor, which is Cellars. So if you've actually seen the last video that I did with Cellars, you will know that I am completely obsessed with their brand and with their product, and for good reason. So Cellars is a completely unique and really fun experience. Essentially, they are a wine company that customizes their personal recommendations to your personal taste. But how do they do this, you might ask? Well, they actually have you do the cutest quiz ever. So you can go onto their website, you can take their quiz, and you can find out which wines actually would suit specifically your lifestyle, your tastes, and then for your convenience, Cellars actually sends and delivers these wines right to your door. And their wines are so incredibly unique. They are wines from all around the world. And let me tell you, I have found so many new favorites from their service. And honestly, I just love getting it delivered to my door. It feels like such a treat to me. I feel so fancy when I'm opening up the package, and all of the wines are so incredibly beautiful. And every single wine that is delivered to your door actually comes with a very specific wine card. And I love these things so much. So on the back, it actually will tell you the notes, and it also tells you what it would pair it with. So for example, the wine that I am currently drinking in the video is Petal Press Wines Rosé, and it says that this is a crisp and dry, light-bodied rosé, and it glimmers with notes of ripe citrus and red berries like strawberry, cranberry, and raspberry, with hints of floral rose petal in the aroma. And Cellars has very kindly given me a link that actually allows everyone to get their very first 6-bottle box for 50% off. That means you get 6 beautiful bottles of wine for only $55. I highly recommend that you check them out. I highly recommend that you use the link. Not only does the link get you 50% off your very first box, it also really supports my channel. So thank you again so much to Cellars for sponsoring this video. And again, all of the links will be down below in my description box. And now let's get back to the book haul. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the very first stack of books. So the first book that I'd like to share with you today is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, or Lucy Foley. This is Lucy Foley's latest thriller, and let me tell you, I had like the best time reading it. Yeah, I've already read it. It was really good. This book is following Jess, who goes to stay with her brother who lives in Paris, but when she gets there, her brother is MIA. And when she asks some of the neighbors, all of them seem to have something to hide. It's scary, it's thrilling, it's cool, and also the entire time you're reading it, you will want a croissant. What more could you want? You know? Next up, I got Entangled Life, and this is by Merlin Sheldrake. This is a nonfiction book all about mushrooms, because evidently I never got over Alice in Wonderland. This book is actually just talking about how awesome and amazing mushrooms are, how some of them can live for like hundreds and hundreds of years, some of them can actually cure diseases. It sounds like a fun time. Who doesn't love a mushroom, you know? The next book I have here is another nonfiction, and it is How to Be a Good Creature, and this is by Sy Montgomery, and it is illustrated by Rebecca Green. The illustrations, by the way, are stunning. And the entirety of this nonfiction is a collection of essays, and every single essay kind of depicts how different animals shaped and helped the author through her life. I'm excited to read this, and I'm excited to cry. Next up, we have a classic, which is always a good time, and that is Animal Farm by George Orwell. Technically, I read this. So fun story about this, I was actually in the 2nd grade when I tested as a high school school reading level back at my elementary school. We were all separated for a period based on our reading level so that we could like grow with people who I guess were at like the same level. I don't really remember. But I was transferred to a 6th grade class where everyone there was reading at the high school level, and the teacher actually tried to kick me out of his classroom. And I was like, look, I'm not happy about being here either. My best friend is reading about fairy tales. What are you guys reading about? And he was like, Animal Farm. And I was like, I like animals. And he said, not this kind. He was right, because the whole story went over my head, and all I remember thinking was, wow, the pigs in here sure aren't like Wilbur. And next up, we've got some spies. That's right, I did get Electric Idol by Katie Robert. This is the second book in her, I guess, Greek mythology retelling series. The first book was Neon Gods. It was a Hades and Persephone's retelling, and it was by far the best romance I've ever read in my entire life. So I obviously had to get this. This particular book is a Greek mythology retelling of Psyche, but I really don't know anything else about that. And to be honest, I'm glad I went into Neon Gods not knowing a lot, because I just loved the world and I loved being surprised. And I want to go into this one not knowing a lot. So I only know that it is a Greek mythology retelling of Psyche, that it's going to be spicy, and that the world is going to have probably a lot of political intrigue because the first one did. And you know what? I know it's going to be a good time. Next up, I don't think I've already hauled this, but I did purchase this earlier in the year, and that is Where the Drowned Girls Go by Seanan McGuire. I've already read this book, and let me tell you, it was incredible. This is actually a novella that is a part of Seanan McGuire's larger novella series, the Every Heart a Doorway series, or the Wayward Children series. It is considered an adult fantasy, and it is fantastic. I think this is actually my very favorite book in the series so far. This particular book is following Cora, and Cora has actually gone to 2 separate worlds. One of them was her world, and she really felt like she belonged to that world. She was a mermaid in that world. And then another one she went into accidentally, where she met these monsters called the Drowned Gods. And now the Drowned Gods just want her, and they keep haunting her. And she decides that she would rather throw away everything than have these things attack her. And so she asks Eleanor West if she can transfer to a different magical school. At this other magical school, they actually try to convince Cora that all magic doesn't exist and that she never went on any magical journey. If you like magic, if you like portal fantasies, I think you're really, really gonna love this. I do recommend actually reading the series in order. You don't actually have to, but if you're not, then I would at least recommend starting with Every Heart a Doorway and then reading the other one about the sticks and bones. I don't remember what it's called, Beneath the Sticks and Bones or something like that, because those 3 novels seem to kind of go in succession with each other. So next up, we have my newest fantasy obsession, and that is the Jasmin Throne, and this is by Tasha Suri. This book is so addicting. It is so good. So this is an adult high fantasy, epic fantasy. This book is following so many different perspectives. It's an incredible world, but the 2 main perspectives are Priya and also Princess Milani, and it's following a princess who is basically exiled out of her kingdom, and then she goes to this other place that's kind of part of her kingdom, and she is given a maidservant named Priya. Priya is hiding a lot of things from her past, and we kind of see their interaction. It is Sapphic. It is so good. I feel like the pining in this is so good. The world building is incredible, and I was hooked from page 1. I'm halfway through this. I love it. Next up, we have my newest purchase, which is Wild and Wicked Things, and this is by Francesca May. This book sounds incredible. Basically, it sounds like The Great Gatsby, except with magic. And like, listen, I am always down to party with Jay Gatsby. You know what I'm saying? In a world of the 1920s, decadence and excess, Francesca May's irresistible debut weaves a dazzling tale of dark magic, romance, and murder. Literally, what more could you want? And then the last book in this particular stack is going to be The Atlas 6, and this is by Olivia Blake. This book has been everywhere. It is all over TikTok. It has exploded on BookTube. It's all over Bookstagram now. And it was originally actually self-published, but then Tor Publishing was like, actually, we would like to get in on that. And I love everything, basically, that Tor publishes. So I had to purchase this. This book is following a group, I think of 6 different like magicians. These are adults with like real magical abilities, and they're all invited to participate or I guess try out for this magical secret society, in which case I think only 5 people are actually selected to study at the Library of Alexandria, which actually in this world did not burn down. And you know what? Like, doesn't that sound fun? That just sounds fun. Also, I would like to say I actually have the original self-published version of this, but the reason I purchased this one is number 1, I wanted to see how Tor was going to edit it differently, and number 2, this version is so beautiful. The other edition was also gorgeous, but I really, really like the illustrations in this one, and I really, really like the bookends. I don't know, I love the cover. I feel like Tor did a really, really good job with their packaging, so I had to have it. Let's take a little bit of a wine break. I am a rosé girl, and I'm also a Riesling girl. Actually, I'm just a wine girl, so. Okay, the next stack of books are all going to be my children's literature books. So if you're a fan of middle grade or young adult, this is the stack for you. The first book on this stack is going to be Gallant, and this is by Victoria Schwab or V.E. Schwab. And this is a YA gothic fantasy tale, and I've already devoured it. I read it in basically a day, and you guys, I loved it. I loved it so much. So this book is following Olivia, who goes to an all-girls school, and she is told that she's actually an orphan. But then one day, a mysterious letter invites her back to her mother's manor, where her mother grew up, by her uncle. But when Olivia goes to the manor, things are not exactly what she expected, and it turns out no one sent her the invite at all. And next up, we have a new graphic novel, and it is a YA graphic novel called The Girl from the Sea, and this is by Molly Knox Ostertag. This book is following Morgan, who wants to ditch her small town island life, and then the girl goes and starts to drown. But she is rescued by a mysterious girl named Kelty, and I think they form a friendship / much more than a friendship. Next up, I picked up books 3 and 4 in the Series of Unfortunate Events series. This is a middle grade series, and it was so popular when I was younger, but I never actually read it when I was like a middle grade age, so I didn't read it when I was a little kid. And I really, really want to read it now as an adult. So I have books 1 and 2 upstairs, and I'm kind of adding to the collection because I would like to binge the series. This series is following 3 orphans, Violet, Klaus, and then their little sister Sunny. They go through a series of unfortunate events. The title isn't wrong. The next book I have is a book that I actually found from my very good friend Gavin's channel, and that is The Monsters of Brookhaven, and this is by Padre Kenny. It's a middle grade book that is following a family of monsters, and they are hidden through magic basically, so that the town doesn't try to attack them, and so that they, I guess, don't try to attack the town. But then one day their invisible barrier is broken by a set of 2 siblings. They go in and they meet the monsters, and that is all I know. I think it's supposed to be spooky, it's supposed to be a little bit gothic, but honestly, like, doesn't it just sound like a fun time? To me, it sounds like a fun time. I love the Addams Family, you know? Staying on the spooky train, I then picked up Anatomy, a Love Story, and this is by Dana Schwartz, and this book sounds incredible. We're following a woman named Hazel who is trying to be a surgeon, but this takes place at a time when women couldn't be doctors, and she actually gets kicked out of the lecture hall, which, like, how rude is that? But she is determined, and so she asks the professor, is there any way that I can still study and take the exam? And he says, if you can pass my exam without going to any of my lectures, then you can be in this like doctor's club thing. And so she then makes a bargain with a guy who I guess like works in a morgue, and he lets her dig up people so that she can study them. I know it sounds dark, okay? But it also sounds really cool. The next 4 books that I have are all part of a series, and I'm just warning you, you guys, this is my new hyperfixation. This is my new identity. This is my new obsession. That's right, besties. I discovered the graphic novel series Fence by C.S. Pacat and Johanna the Mad, and I couldn't love it more. This series is actually following Nicholas, who is the illegitimate son of a world-class fencer, and Nicholas is like, you know what? First of all, A, my dad sucks, but B, let me get his attention by showing him that like I'm actually a really good fencer, and he messed up in not wanting to like hang out with me and raise me as his son. And then he'll be sorry that like he's not in my life. So then he enters into a tournament, and he meets this guy right here. And this guy does not give Nicholas the time time of day. He completely destroys Nicholas in their match, and then he tells Nicholas, "You're literally just a zero." So he goes to a school and he tries to get onto their fencing team so that he can get a scholarship, but also so that he can become better at fencing. And lo and behold, when he goes to the school, who is his roommate? That's right, it's the guy who killed him at the tournament. I've already devoured them 3 times. It's really good. And then finally, the final middle grade that I have here was actually sent to me very kindly by the publisher, and that is Witchlings, and this is by Claribel A. Ortega. They actually sent me the most beautiful packaging. I actually unboxed it for a TikTok. I had so much fun unboxing it. They also sent me a little jar of candy. I cannot show you the candy because I have completely devoured the candies, but thank you so much to the publisher for sending this to me. I just loved opening it, and I can't wait to read this book. This particular book is following a girl named Seven who lives in a magical town where she is basically sorted into different covens. She really wants to belong in one coven with her best friend, but she accidentally gets left into the coven she doesn't want to be in. And I think they are the Spares. I'm really excited and interested in picking this up. I love books about like witchcraft and magic. I think this will be perfect around the spooky season, and it sounds so incredibly charming. And that's everything for the second stack. So let's go ahead and go on to the third stack. Also, let's go ahead and have another sip of wine. Okay, we are officially on the final stack, and we are going to start off with Less by Andrew Sean Greer. I'm gonna be honest with you, I purchased this one because I saw UnCarly talk about this. I'm obsessed with her channel. She is so funny. If you love BookTube, if you love people who are funny, please go check her out. Anyway, so this is about Arthur, and Arthur has just been invited to his ex's wedding, and he doesn't want to go, but he also feels like really obligated to go. So instead, he says that he can't because he's actually going, I think, to like a different conference. And he decides to take this opportunity to basically travel the world. I think it's a book about self-reflection, about finding yourself, about discovering new fascinating people and places. And it sounds like a really good time. So I'm excited to read it. I think it'll be really good. Next up, I have The Thursday Murder Club, and this is by Richard Osman. I have heard so many wonderful things about this book, and I really want to get in on the murder mystery action. So this particular book is following a group of 4 friends who live at this retirement center, and every single Thursday they discuss unsolved murder mystery cases, which sounds like such a fun time. Honestly, I would love to join their club. And then one day there is, I think, like a dead body that is discovered near where they live, and they are in the middle of the very first unsolved murder mystery case in real life, and they try to crack the case. It sounds so cute. It sounds spooky, and it sounds like a great murder mystery, but it also just kind of sounds like really charming, and I'm really excited to read it and kind of learn all about their club and who they are. I don't know, I think this will be really good. Next up, we have a dark academia book, which is always a good time, and that is Sleepwalking by Meg Wolitzer. So this particular book is following 3 best friends who are all attending a university, and they kind of create a club called the Death Girls Club, where they are all obsessed with a poet who I guess explores themes of death. However, this obsession then leads into some disturbing events, kind of how it usually goes with dark academia. I don't know anything else, but it sounds really incredible. It's also fairly short, so I would love to just read this in a day. It sounds like a good time. Next up, we have White Teeth by Zadie Smith. I've always wanted to read something by Zadie Smith, and I think that this is one of her most popular books, and so I figured I would start with this one, but if I'm being totally honest, I don't really know a lot about it. So I'll go ahead and read the synopsis on the back. It says, one of the most talked about fictional debuts of recent years, White Teeth is a funny, generous, big-hearted novel adored by critics and readers alike, dealing with, among many other things, friendship, love, war, 3 cultures and 3 families over 3 generations, and the tricky way the past has of coming back and biting you on the ankle. It is a life-affirming... My books are trying to escape. It is a life-affirming, riotous must-read of a book. Next up is a book. I don't think that I have hauled this book, although I know that I've shown this book on my channel before, and that is Lonely Castle in the Mirror, and this is by Mizuki Sujimura. This is a Japanese translated work, and it is about 7 different children who all have stopped going to school for different reasons, and they all find portals in their rooms that actually transport them to this magical castle. I read this book, and it made me cry so so much. I think it's absolutely beautiful, so charming, and the cover, oh my God. Next up, we have Breasts and Eggs by Miko Kawakami. I'm gonna be honest with you, when I first picked this up, I thought it said breakfast and eggs instead of breasts and eggs. So yes, but it's not about breakfast. Just throwing that out there. So it says here on the back, on a sweltering summer day, Mikiko travels to Tokyo where her sister lives. She is in the company of her daughter, who has lately grown silent, finding herself unable to voice the vague yet overwhelming pressures associated with adolescence. The story of these three women reunited in a working class neighborhood of Tokyo is told through the gaze of Natsusho, 30 years old, an aspiring writer and haunted by hardships endured in her youth. Next up, we have kind of a little bit of like a modern day classic, and that is James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room. I have heard so many incredible things about this book over the years, especially in my undergrad, and I've always wanted to read it, so I figured I would just purchase it and read it and see for myself what my thoughts are. It says, with a sharp and probing imagination, James Baldwin's now classic narrative delves into the mystery of loving and creates a moving, highly controversial story of death and passion that reveals the unspoken complexities of the human heart. Next up, we have a book that I've recently just finished, and that is Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. This is a book all about two people who are living in the UK and London, and they both kind of end up drawn to each other, and then they become best friends and eventually lovers. But it's about all of the trials that they face in trying to get together, and it is stunning. If you are interested in a very short book that's powerful and reads like poetry, please pick this up. It was beautiful. Next up, we have a book that has been making its rounds on BookTube, and that is Vladimir by Julia May Jones, and this was very kindly sent to me by Book of the Month. This is following an English professor whose husband has just been, I think, accused of having sexual relations with one of his students. She is trying to grapple with all of this while she herself is falling in love with a young novelist who is going to her university. Honestly, it sounds messy, and like messy usually means it's gonna be a fun read. And then finally, the last book that I have to share with you today is One Italian Summer, and this is by Rebecca Serrell. This book is following Katie, and Katie's mother has just tragically passed away. To grieve and mourn her mother, she decides to actually go on this Italian vacation that she was supposed to take with her mom. But when she gets to the hotel, she realizes that she's actually flown back in time, and she meets her mom when her mother is the same age as Katie, and they both get to become best friends and spend one last summer together in Italy. I highly recommend reading this with like a bowl of spaghetti and also a huge stack of Kleenex, because you will totally cry your eyes out. And besties, I think that is it. Those are all of the books that I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much for being here. Have you purchased any books recently? Do you want to tell me what they are in the comments? And have you read any of the books that I have shown you today? What were your thoughts on them? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Please let me know down below. And also a huge thank you again to Bright Cellars for sponsoring this video. I love Bright Cellars. Like, I cannot tell you how much I love them. I love opening all of the wines. It feels like such a treat, and I'm so happy to be working with them. All of the links will be down in the description. I highly, highly recommend checking them out. I think that is it for now. If you have come to this part of the video, please leave me a drink emoji. Any drink emoji of your choice, whether it's coffee or like a nice little lemonade or a glass of wine, just leave me any drink emoji of your choice down below. And I think that's it for now, you guys. So until next time, book lovers, keep your head in the clouds and your heart in a book, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye!
Always think of you when spring comes, like it's something in the air at that time. Don't know why. Always dream of you when spring comes. It's like the heat on my skin.